All right, let's get into it.
Well,
hey,
it's close enough to Friday.
It is. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Warfighter Tobacco Podcast. I'm John. That's Scott. Justin's producer extraordinaire. We have a guest today. We have Robert with the Purple Heart, the military Order of the Purple Heart, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. I didn't mess that up. My coffee's just starting to kick in, so my words don't word all the way. But no, we have Robert on today, and we actually met them smoking cigars. So yeah, it is cigar related,
Right.
but it's also something that's personal to our community.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to get some more information out about their organization and what they do. And they're just good dudes. So
Right.
we're going to have a conversation with them.
It leans heavier on the Warfighter side than the tobacco side this week.
Right.
That's fine.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yep. I mean, if you guys out there in the podcast world don't want that, then well, hit next. But so Robert, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here in Texas. God's country, the actual land of the brave and free, opposed from my state, but I do love the green in my state. So,
and your
I'm happy
state
to be here.
is?
I come from the state of Washington State, not Washington,
So
D.C. for the folks out there.
Your state is beautiful,
Very, very.
but the
yes.
people are douchebags.
Very much so. So believe it or not, so both of my parents are from Texas. So I actually own a shirt that says Washington made with Texas parts. To give you an idea of people, I like the surrounding beauty, but like a lot of my beliefs and the way I live is the way that you guys are out here in Texas. So it's nice to be here, and I blend in with a lot of the people, and I understand.
But you're very camouflaged.
Yeah,
here,
very
Texas.
camouflaged here. So
That would be he's Hispanic. His background there. So for the listeners,
hey, it works out well for me. If I can use it, I'll take advantage of it.
right?
Right? You got to use every tool in your toolbox.
So, so let's start there. Give us your background. So your parents are both from Texas. So
Yeah, so both parents are from Texas. Family actually migrated up to Washington off of a bet. My grandfather was gambling, and he bet a property and was able to win. I think it was like between 5 and 10 acres of dairy land up in Texas. So my mom and them moved up there. Shortly after, parents were pen pals. They knew each other from before. Dad joined the Navy and happened to get his first duty station up in Whidbey Island, where I was born. And
nice.
they got married. I came to life, and that's life for me.
Yeah.
Grew up in Skagit County, Washington, and then decided one day to join the military. And
what branch did you join?
I was in the Marine Corps.
What'd you do in the Marines?
I was a waster of taxpayer money.
I think they all are, honestly.
Right, so yeah.
What
I have not
what
met a
MOS is
Marine.
that?
right. So yeah, I was in the infantry with 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines.
Okay.
So
yeah,
did
Well,
my time with them. And
we did a very similar job just in the Army.
yeah.
You're 03
everybody's-
series, we're 11 series.
Yeah, everybody's like, "What'd you do?" I was like, "I wasted taxpayer money." What'd you mean? It's like the amount of stuff that I did. Why did you do that? I'm like, I had nothing better to do.
Right.
So,
Or they told me to.
Well, see,
or they told me to.
Well, see,
correct.
I don't care how much a javelin costs. It's fucking heavy.
Yeah.
And if I can get rid of it, I'm getting rid of it.
Like there's 2 times where it's okay to waste money. 1, if it's really, really fun.
Right.
2,
Very true.
if it's really, really heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those, it's just like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Like
in our case, we just wanted to see what a javelin would do, especially when they got the new ordinance instead of the explosion, the imploding. They're like, well, let's see what an implosion does, and just fire it off into the building. I'm like, that's cool. Well, that's like $1 million. Okay.
Well, now we know what it does.
Now we know.
Now we know. So we'll use it at the best discretion next time. But we were always told, know what you're using. And
Right.
when you're using dummy rounds or practicing,
Yeah,
the simulation's not the same as real life.
It goes back to my 203 story.
Yeah.
So I airballed a 203 round over a building because it was the first time I'd shot
Just
a 203 smoke round.
Sent it.
Oh,
They're a lot lighter than an HEDP. I didn't know this.
yeah. So
Mark that window.
we actually had a similar story. So after the initial invasion to Iraq, we made it all the way up to Baghdad. Came back down to Karbala, and I had this NCO. We were in a fire company. We were patrolling, and I was like, we'd just taken over this position for the Army, and we were told the Army always gave warning shots, and I didn't understand why they were doing it. And it was basically to alert them we were coming, so nobody was there to make their job easier. So one night on patrol, I was
Not the Army I was in.
Same.
So one night on patrol, I didn't want to deal with people, so I was like, "Hey, Corporal Morris, give them a warning shot to the front door, and hopefully they're gone. We could search the house and leave."
With HEDP.
So all I heard was thump. I look over, I was like, "What is that?" You said warning shot. I was like, "Yeah, shoot a round, not a whole ass grenade through the door, man." And so
Yeah.
that was
Warned them.
radio started going off, and they're like, "Who did this?" I was like, "We heard it. We don't know." And so we weren't getting in trouble for doing
Wait,
that.
this is perfect. Warned them. Damn near killed them.
Good times though.
Right,
I wouldn't change it again for the world.
Yeah.
So what years were you in?
I was in from 2000 2010.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you got out, I mean, we're what is 2025? So we're 15 years past when you got out.
Yep.
How is that?
So the transition was hard at first, but also weird. I didn't know what I was going to do. I wanted to possibly go into law enforcement, but at the same time, I wanted a break. So I was married at the time,
Now,
and my ex-wife got a job, and I stayed home with our two oldest
Did,
kids.
did you ETS or did you medically retire or did you?
I used to use all the leave that I had, and I left for
Yeah.
I was 3 months out before.
Nice.
Yeah,
So,
nice. Yeah, that's what I did too. Yeah. Yeah, it was, like for me too, I just got out and like I had no idea other than I didn't want to be in the Army anymore.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So what'd you end up?
So, well, I still wanted to be in the Marine Corps. Just a job that I asked for, they weren't given to me.
Right.
And they wanted me to do something I didn't want to do.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm just leaving. But I went home. Was actually a stay-at-home dad, which was really nice. Obviously, I was still getting paid. And one day after out riding four-wheelers with my boys, I saw my old employer, and he drove by, and I was like, crap, did he see me? And then he kept going. So it's like he didn't see me. Well, 3 minutes later, I wasn't paying attention, and he parked right in front of the house. And he was like, "Well, when'd you get back?" I was like, "Oh, I wasn't gonna lie." I was like, I've been home for almost 2.5 months." He goes, "Great, I'll see you tomorrow." I was like, "Crap!" And so ex-wife got home.
You were gone for 10 years?
Yeah, I was gone for a while. Well, I'd stop by and say hi all the time.
Right.
So.
But like he just expected you to come back to work after 10 years?
I think so. Well, because so in that business, so it was a towing company
Okay.
where I was
got
at.
it,
So
got it.
in my area, it was the Hispanic population was starting to increase, and there was no Hispanic tow truck drivers. So he wanted to take advantage of that
Right.
aspect. And a lot of the places we serviced and impounded cars at were Hispanically populated. So
Right.
I was able to translate and let them know why we're taking their car or what
Right,
it
right,
costs.
right.
So there was a benefit to that. So I came back. I didn't know the company was failing, turned it around, was able to get all these contracts. And in return, he gave me a pretty cool gift of a 1 week full paid vacation. And he pretty much paid for everything: gas, hotel,
Nice.
food, and amusement parks. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. Don't get that in the Marine Corps. So, so stayed there for a while and
Right.
did it until I got bored.
It's just a shittier amusement park. in the
Pretty
Marine
much.
Corps.
Yeah.
That's called an obstacle course.
Yeah. Whenever I talk to people about going to the VA, I tell them I go to Disneyland. And they're like, what do you mean? It's the happiest place in the world, man. Everybody loves to go there. So
So when did you get involved with the organization that you are now the head of?
okay. So that's a funny
So
story.
what's your official title with them?
So I am currently the national commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. So I oversee all of our veterans and patriots within our organization. Basically, I am the face, the figurehead, but I work for everybody in the organization. I don't make the choices or decisions without, talking to them, talking to my team, my senior vice, and her name's Tracy Brown, and my junior vice, who is from Texas, but she's not here right now. She's in California, where we just came from.
And we met her in DC.
Yeah, you met her in DC. And then I also talked to my junior vice, which is Frances Figueroa, and she's from North Carolina, and my national adjutant. And then the rest of the team we'll discuss on how we're going to move forward and helping veterans and do stuff. So But me coming to the Purple Heart was a funny story. I was actually out on a date at a movie theater, and left the movie theater and was walking out, and just by chance, there was this H2 Hummer that literally had, and I'm not kidding, like 50 Purple Heart stickers plastered all over the windows.
Right.
And I was like, damn, this guy's in love that he has a Purple Heart. That shit's crazy. And so he did have military order the Purple Heart stickers, but I wasn't registering that. I just saw the Purple Heart everywhere. And by looking at it by chance, some gentleman, older gentleman, walked out, and first words out of his mouth was like, "What the fuck you looking at?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "Oh, someone's gonna get in a fight." So I turned around, and this gentleman's literally looking at me. He's like, "Do you have a problem that I'm a Purple Heart recipient?" And he's just getting pissier. And I was like, "What?" No, I was like, "No, I have a Purple Heart too." And then at that point, his whole demeanor changed. He's like, "Oh, have you ever heard of the military or the Purple Heart?" Well, by that time, I was already pissed. I was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Right.
He's like, "Well, it's like the VFW and the American Legion, but we're just all Purple Heart recipients." It's like, "No, I haven't heard of that," and I'm getting pissed because like some guy just walked out of the movie theater and started yelling at me. And
not a great way to recruit.
Yeah. So he hands me his card, and as I look at it, and I was like, "Cool, man." And he goes, "We should have you there. We'd love to have you." I was like, "Whatever." And so went home, didn't think anything of it. Like a month passed, and the next month, girl I was seeing needed to go to a mall, and she's like, "You want to go with me?" I was like, "No, I don't want to go to the mall." And she's like, "Come on, I want to get there faster, and I need you to take the HOV lane." Whatever. And so I went, and we showed up, and we showed up to a building that was right next to the mall, but it wasn't the mall.
Okay.
I was like, "What's this?" So she goes, "I want you to go to a meeting." I was like, "A meeting?" I was like, I'm not
even drunk right now.
I was like, "I'm not an alcoholic." I was like, "I'm not an alcoholic." She's like, "What?" I was like, "I'm over here thinking she's having me go to AA." I was like, "You've only seen me drink with my friends. I'm not drinking every day." And it turns out I walked in, and I just see these Vietnam veterans and just a group of them, and one more OIF person, and sat there, and it was like a whole 2 hours. I was like, "Damn, that's 2 hours of my life I'm not going to get back." But they welcomed me in, started talking to me. Were excited that I was there, and I had a copy of my DD-214 on my phone. And they paid my membership fee, and the rest is history.
Nice.
Yeah. So first I became the Americanism officer, where they just had me go to school and present leadership awards to ROTC students and thank them and start talking about the military, and went up the ranks, became the department junior vice, and did a lot of work. I was like, "I don't want to do this," and left because I read the bylaws. If you're not there to accept a nomination, you can't progress. So I left to Alaska to go fishing, where there was no cell service. Got within service, heard my phone, and congratulations, department senior vice. I was like, "What the hell?" And so the rest is history. Just started climbing the ranks, and then finally made it to national commander, now leading this prestigious organization.
Nice.
And doing a lot of good for veterans and bringing more awareness about us. And
So what's the mission of
so we do a lot for veterans, and it's just not for Purple Heart recipients. People seem to think just because we're the military or the Purple Heart, we're all combat wounded veterans. We do more than just take care of the Purple Heart recipients.
Right.
So, we do a variety of things, just like any other organization, from youth services, from ROTC to mentorship to scholarships for our the family members of Purple Heart recipients, which, by the way, scholarships are going on. If you are a Purple Heart recipient and a member of the Purple Heart, go to our website, which is purpleheart.org. If you're not a member, become a member, and then your child can apply for a scholarship, and you can get a grant to go to school. And it's not just a one-year thing. You can apply each year.
Nice.
So we don't limit you to how many times you can apply for that. So we have our scholarship. We have a suicide prevention. We have welfare programs, homelessness programs. We're the only organization that has a coding program where we teach you how to code.
Nice.
And then after the year-long coding in school, they put on a job fair. And that program director, he's Brandon Wagner. He's here from Texas as well.
Oh, cool.
And so we put on a job fair, and he invites all the big corporations, and they can pick who they want unless you already have something lined up and get a coding job that way. So it's us giving back to the veterans. And
Nice.
our biggest thing is legislatively. We had a very good legislative turnout this year. And working with other organizations, but our push is to ensure that all veterans are taken care of, and we make sure that not just the veterans who already did their time, but the service members who were debating whether they want to get out or in the process to get out, that they know that they have all these new benefits that'll take care of them and ensure that they don't go down the wrong path with homelessness or depression and stuff. So we're trying to expand that so that they have a better way of life, because our thoughts is when I came in, I was taken care of by all the Vietnam veterans. Right. And all our Vietnam veterans are starting to check out. So
you can pass the torch.
Now it's time to pass the torch. We're taking hold. So now my goal, is to hopefully turn around and give what was given to me to the next generation, the up and coming veterans who will start to sit in this seat and do what we're doing right now. So, only 44 years old. So to want to turn that around and ensure people behind me have a better life is going to be a good thing. Like even better than what I have. So
yeah. Like when we got out, John, or when I suppose when you got out too, it was the same. Nobody explained VA benefits or any of that shit. I think they actively did the opposite.
They did.
They actively hid it from us.
It was like I vaguely remember that there was a checkbox on our clearing sheet that battalion gave us. Here, go here, check that. You need all these signatures and blah blah blah. And I know for a fact that I went in there and I got my box checked. Then they're like, "Yep, no, you're good to go. Go to your next one."
Yeah.
And then the girl I was dating at the time, who was a cook, I was just like, "Yeah, I got all this shit done today." And she's like, "Did you turn in your stuff for your VA stuff?" And I'm like, "What? No." I was like, "They checked the box. I'm good." And she's like, No. And she forced me to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll have to look through my stuff, but I'm about 90% sure that I used your guys' organization as my VSO for my original claim.
Good possibility. It was really big until we suspended it in 2019.
Right.
And we did help a lot of people. And we still get the emails, every day. It's like, "Hey, I used you back in 2012, 2018, 2019.
Can you guys help?
Like, can you help?" I'm like, "So we're like, sorry, our program is suspended at the time. So,
right.
But we can refer you to another veteran service organization, and they would have access to our records because we turn it over to the VA."
Right.
But you are right. When I got out, it was a tap checkout and do this, get all these signatures and make sure all your stuff's turned in. But now, from what I hear and the people I've talked to and served with, it's like a week-long course to check out to make sure you have everything stamped and ready to go.
Right.
You even have your disability rating and all that started as you're checking out.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
which for me it wasn't.
That was not.
No. Because I got out in 2007, and I got out after the division lifted a stop loss.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a quarter of the division stop loss that everybody was getting out at the same time.
They're like,
they didn't give
get
a
your
fuck,
shit, get the fuck out of
right?
here.
Yeah. They're just like, go.
So now it's like all this process, and also like with the VA, the benefits. I didn't know any of that until later.
Yeah.
And I did the whole process, and I've been fighting it this whole time. And they're like, "Oh, well, this paperwork doesn't say this." I'm like, "It's literally right there."
Yeah.
But we're trying to also make it to where the VA does a better job of helping veterans with their ratings, because if it doesn't mention a certain word, they'll keep denying it. And like, for example, I was hit by an RPG, and it literally says on my trauma sheet, extensive trauma to the entire right side of the body, bleeding from the ear, bleeding from the abdomen, bleeding from the leg. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries. They give me a brace, and the VA's done the surgeries.
Right.
But they won't acknowledge my shoulder because it doesn't say it on the paperwork.
Right.
And someone was like, "What, did I take my arm off when I got hit by the rocket? Was I flying in the air and the rocket just happened to miss that part?" Well, it doesn't mention it. It's like literally it says entire right side. That's my right
part
shoulder.
of my right side.
Which you've done surgery for, and you've given me a special shoulder brace. I was like, "Well,
But
it just doesn't say it in the paperwork."
They tell you your shoulder's not service connected.
They tell me my shoulder. I'm serious. It says my shoulder is not service connected.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is the dumbest thing.
I have TBI and hearing loss, not service connected. It drives me crazy.
I got this thing right here.
Yeah.
Right. It restricts my mobility. I got it because I broke my hand detaining a guy, and it just never healed.
Oh, wow.
And so I have every X-ray since 2005 when I got out, and everything all the way up to today. I have documentation from like med records and all kinds of shit. And still to this day, they say all my X-rays are unremarkable, and it is not service connected.
Yep.
Well, so
I'm just like,
I have that same thing. I do.
Guys.
So if you look at my hands, you'll see my right hand is swollen. That's all from the nerve damage from that. And like, that's not service connected. I'm like, are you serious? I was like, what else did I do? I was like, I even gave him my civilian medical record.
No, I'm
like,
assuming that's how you got your Purple Heart.
yeah. So
You would think Purple Heart hit by an RPG,
Yeah.
with the
entire
IE,
right side,
Yeah.
that's a pretty fucking obvious service connection.
Right.
This is the kind of bullshit that we fight with the VA.
Like what I
all the
want to
time.
know is
It
like,
insane.
well, that person at the VA who makes the decision, nope, that's not service connected. What the fuck are you gatekeeping?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
what are you preventing these service members that is clearly fucking service connected?
Right.
What are you preventing? What are you holding back?
Yeah.
What is your status?
Do you
Or
get-
what's your quota where you're like, no, I can't.
Is it like when you work for Spirit and you get a kickback when the bag's too big and you have to charge extra? You get a kickback? Like, what the fuck's going on, VA?
Yeah, is there a hidden bonus structure that's in the GS?
Right?
good possibility. Who knows? But like I said, me and my team, and it's like the best team we've had. Everybody on my team here at the Purple Heart, and this is the first, and I'm not talking about, like, I understand the Wounded Warrior Project; those guys are all OIFOE,
Right.
but we're one of the older organizations where everybody on the team is Iraq or Afghanistan.
Right.
Right.
Nothing against Vietnam guys. We do have some Vietnam guys within our as directors of our programs and our finance officer, but everybody on the team is a Iraq, Afghan veteran, showing the change.
Right.
And we see this problem. So we're trying to, tackle it and make these meetings and get stuff going. So we're like literally trying to get appointments with the Secretary of the VA, the president, whoever we can get in front of us to be like, hey, these are the actual problems. You guys are talking about, helping this generation of veterans and taking care of us with all this PTSD and TBI. This is what we need to do.
Yeah.
Like, let's come to a common.
Well, let's figure out that, like, in OIF 1, there weren't records all the time.
There was not, no.
There wasn't your medic was your medic.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't filling out paperwork for your medical chart. He was keeping you alive and in the fight.
So like
And that's it.
The documentation I have for this, and I don't know how it found its way into my med record, but it did. And this was at the time when I got out, where they would hand me your med record and be like, okay, go bring it to the hospital on base and turn it in and get it signed off.
So you said you broke your hand with a detainee over in Iraq?
Yeah, we were detaining a guy. And he had
Technically that
firearms.
qualifies you for a Purple Heart.
I've always joked about it, and I'm
Shit, we could get you set up with that.
But there's 100 instances of that kind of shit that I know of.
yeah, with all the guys.
And all the guys. And nobody cares for one.
Yeah.
Right?
Like the only thing that I want with this is, like, I want to know if I can fix it and get my mobility back.
Well, I'm pretty sure there is, but but by that,
But you just have to pay for it yourself because it wasn't service connected.
Exactly.
right, yeah, exactly. You could literally be missing an arm, and they're like, it's not service connected.
Yeah.
So, and we all see jokes like that on social media, like Facebook, where it's a guy in the Civil War who took a cannon round to the leg, not service connected.
Right.
Missing everything but his head, not service connected.
Where you see the guys that are, the airborne guys, and they burn in.
Yeah.
And just the captions, not service connected.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the Space Force, not service connected.
No.
plane
Space
to come
Force and Air Force, everything's service connected.
out. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't understand that either, but whatever.
It's because the people.
It's because they're smarter than this.
That's really it.
That's exactly it. So,
No, they don't have animosity for no reason.
Yeah.
It's what like the Army and the Marine Corps. People are pissed just to be pissed. They're like, I'm mad. Why? Because I hate my job. You chose it.
Yeah. Because now,
but then when you get out, you miss every day of it.
Right.
Like, damn, I miss that feeling, because you can't yell at anybody without getting in trouble or arrested here. You can't IT somebody, and they're like, why are you abusing that guy or bullying? And it's like,
no, that's all. It's all encouraged at Warfighter Tobacco.
oh yeah.
So, yeah.
We do it in house, and we joke about it here. But when we're out in public, we're very professional, and we're approachable, and
We're approachable and
We don't haze our employees in public.
not too bad.
same here.
Look, Justin slowly pulled the mic in.
My adjutant puts up with me. There's days where he probably wants to wring my neck, but he's like, we got a mission, so but he's a good guy and takes care of me, so it's good. So I understand. So.
Justin, you can't talk about the hunts. That is through a nonprofit. That's not through Warfighter Tobacco.
That's off the clock hazing. That's fine.
Oh, yeah. Vegas rules. What happens outside the office stays outside the office.
No, it's the other way around.
Oh, there you go. It's like good stuff.
So So you guys are here in San Antonio, and you guys are here for a memorial unveiling.
Yeah. So, everybody's invited. Hopefully we can get you all there tomorrow. Hold on. Let me pull it up. I have this information on the phone. I just started remembering the location, but so we will be at, so it's the Price of Freedom statue unveiling ceremony tomorrow.
Okay.
So it'll be May 23rd at from 10 a.m. to 12 at VFW Post 9186, which is 650 VFW Boulevard. And this monument's been years in the making. Now, like I was mentioning earlier, I was there at the groundbreaking. I was there when we put stuff in the time capsule. Then I made fun of all the Vietnam guys because they're like, it's a 50-year time capsule. I'm like, wait, I'm the only one that's going to be alive in 50 years. And so they started laughing, but it's the first of its kind. There are monuments like this, but not like this one. So it's got 3 generational conflicts, which is World War II, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. And the front of the statue, it's got a Vietnam and World War II veteran, helping each other out. And then they have an Iraq, Afghanistan who is watching their 6, which make this unique and the first of its kind is we're used to these monuments all being male.
Right.
So the World War II Vietnam veterans are male, and the Iraq, Afghanistan veteran, it happens to be the first female that is integrated within the 3 conflicts, which is going to be the first of its kind in the country. And it's going to be amazing. There are plenty of women monuments out there. Right. I'm not saying that there's not. And there are some that are dedicated to Purple Heart, which is great. Yeah. We love that because it's bringing, awareness of our organization and to people who sacrifice everything. Some gave all gave some. Yeah. But to have these 3 generations, and they're big conflicts. There's nothing small about them. I'm not, saying that the other ones were small either, but to have that and then to actually include a woman veteran is a lot because, as you guys know, females have been becoming part of the infantry within the last 4 or 5 years. No, about 3 or 5 years.
I can't remember. Yeah, probably 5 years at least.
Yeah. So so that's a big step, and to showing that they've not only gone from being admin, supply, and other jobs actually being on the front line with our.
Well, the one thing about the Purple Heart is it doesn't discriminate.
It does not.
MOS, male or female, any race, it doesn't care. Yeah. If you are injured in combat, you're getting a Purple Heart. So it's and we have, like I said, we have 2 female national officers in our organization. John and I got to meet one of them.
Tracy Brown.
Yeah, when we were in DC. So we should talk about how we met. Yeah. So we were in DC doing our cigar legislation stuff with Cigars for Warriors. Yep. And somehow you guys got invited to our after party.
I think they just crashed it.
Did you just crash it? That's epic. And I enjoy it because we had fun that night.
We had a good night. That was a really good night. So myself and Tracy and my adjutant, we were actually just walking out of the last meeting we had with one of the senators, and we mentioned something about we were trying to help ourselves because we're technically in a bind. The one forbidden word in our organization is the word foundation,
right?
Which used to be our fundraising arm. They pretty much held money over our head, and we didn't like it. And we're like, well, we want control. It's not how it's going to work. So we were trying to find a way to raise awareness, raise money for our organization to keep paying for the programs, to help the veterans and keep moving forward. Well, while we were talking about this, someone overheard us, and it happened to be another guy that was there doing some legislative work. Navy veteran, can't remember the name, was top of his head. And we went out and started talking, and he was curious about it and put us into some IPO guys that were going to be at this cigar event. So they called us up, gave us the address, said, come talk to us. We want to talk to you. And then one thing led to another. We walked in and met you guys and started talking to everybody. And turned out we made some really great connections that helped us. And we were forever grateful for it. And
that's awesome.
Just wanting to let people know who we are, what we're about, and trying to, get ahead. The finances would be helpful because that means we can keep pushing the mission for veterans and not leave it to and this isn't talking down about the American Legion or the VFW or anything, but our main focus all day, every day, because none of us gets paid to do anything. because this is all volunteer, is to make sure every veteran is taken care of.
Right.
So yeah, we don't have the numbers, but our little numbers do make a big impact.
Yeah.
And to where we do get noticed. And so
there's a huge difference in the nonprofit space when it comes down to organizations that are volunteer based and organizations that are salary based. Right.
Correct.
And this is outside looking in. I mean, I'm heavily involved in a bunch of different nonprofits and have been for years now. So I understand the world a little bit. But the nonprofits where it's salary based, meaning your board, your executive officers, they take money out of the organization as pay. They seem bigger, right? Because they're being run as a business.
Well, right.
They're not being run as a nonprofit on a shoestring budget because they're forcing that fundraising.
Correct.
Because they need to get paid.
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword though, right? Because you have all volunteers who have to do a job versus having a guy that's paid to do the job that can do the job full time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword. The problem is when the salaries become crazy and there's hundreds of people on said salaries.
Yep.
Yeah, your organization's bringing in tons of money, but it needs.
But where's it going?
Yeah, it should.
Yeah.
And where's the money going?
Where's it going?
Yeah. So to run it more efficiently sometimes.
So I call them like this. So they're non-for-profit, for-profit organizations.
Yep. Right.
You know. So, but like for us, like so, I do have a budget, and and I have a budget for travel, but that's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
But that's a direct expense.
Yeah,
I mean,
and so, but a lot of these guys, you know, and I'm a part of the VFW. I'm not raining down a parade. They actually have a budget, and then they actually get paid.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. It's not how it works for us, but there's incentive to try to make that position for them and just be the face and travel around, opposed to us where we're trying to make a difference. And like I mentioned earlier, yeah, I am the national commander.
Yeah.
But I don't see it that way. I work for our patriots within the organization. And in the end, they're my boss, and all of them know that I just do what they tell me, and I just represent them. So,
well, it's the difference between putting a Marine grunt in charge and putting almost anybody else in charge. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you put somebody in charge who's been in an environment where your rank structure, your organization, is a direct reflection of how good your leadership is.
Right.
And you transitioned that into, well, I'm not saying you specifically, but how it is now, it was transitioned into the military order of the Purple Heart.
Yeah.
You have somebody that is a boots on the ground leader and not a guy that's sitting in a desk, being a boss.
Right.
Essentially.
What's the difference between leadership and management? Right.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And like I said, and it hit hard. So I was actually at a funeral this past September for one of my COs who passed away from cancer. And there was 30 of us, 30, 50 of us from our original unit. And I actually saw a 2-star who was Lieutenant Colonel in my XO at the time. He smiled and gave me a hug. He's like, "How you doing?" I was like, "Sir, I could still be better. Leg still hurts, arm still hurts."
Right.
And this was what? So I got injured 2004, so 21 years later.
Yeah.
And so we're talking. He goes, "Yeah, I've been on so many missions, and I still haven't been hit by an IED like you were." I'm like, "Well, that's nice." But we started talking, and I had all my friends. They're just we're entrepreneurs, we're CEOs, and I'm thinking, well, shit, I haven't done anything in my life. I don't think I'm where I'm supposed to be financially. At 44 years of age, and I said it out loud, not thinking I said it out loud. And
right.
I had my buddies and they call me Ollie, so, and they're like, "What are you talking about? You're literally on a magazine of an organization, doing stuff for veterans." It's like, that makes us look like shit. I'm like, and I was like, "Really?" They're like, "What do you mean, really?" It's like, I don't see myself like that. Yeah, I'm a national commander, but I don't see myself as like, I'm the biggest badass on the block and we're doing this. It's like, dude, I still work for people. And I've carried that through, all of my jobs. I have previous employees where I was a general manager and they're like, "You're out here with us doing the work." I'm like, a good leader's here with you.
Yeah.
It's not
What
behind
the
the
fuck else am I supposed to be doing?
The AC sounds really good right now, but I want to keep you around. So if I'm out here with you, that means I'm not better than you. And so
Yeah.
I brought that. That's something I learned from the Marine Corps, and I've carried through my entire life. And I try to be a good example.
Yeah, I didn't make it to the military leadership school that starts teaching you that now that you're this rank, you're better and you don't have to do actual work. I don't know at what rank.
Well, you got to think that.
But I didn't make it to that school.
So when we were all in, if Iraq and Afghanistan 9/11 didn't happen, you probably would have, right? So that same thing goes for me.
Maybe.
So our leadership school is called NCO course. So you got corporal's course and sergeant's course, right?
Yeah.
Well, I made it all the way to E5 sergeant, and I never went to a single course.
Yeah,
same.
Yeah. But and talking
War's a hell of a thing.
and talking to people, like I know people from when I recruited that went through the courses. They're like, well, what'd you do at this when you were at this course? I was like, I never did it. Like, what do you mean you never did this requirement? It's like, yeah. So when I was in, that's when shit was really going down.
Yeah,
so we got to bypass that section and we got promoted.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was like, they're like, what, really? It's like, oh, I hate this course because you gotta drill and you gotta do this and you gotta know that. It's like, oh man, I just.
And it was the funniest thing too, right? Because like I got promoted in Iraq. Like I put my E5 stripes on in Iraq. And then I remember when we were getting close to redeploying back to the States, somebody, and I can't remember exactly who it was, somebody's like, when you get back, you got to go to PLDC, right? Which is, the leadership course for E5. I was like, no. And they're like, yeah, you do. It's a requirement. I'm like, it's a requirement to put the stripes on. I have them on. I don't have to go to that school.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you have to. And I'm like, we'll fight this fight when we get back to Garrison.
I have a scenario.
And then it's like, I got out later.
You have a scenario? Okay.
Yeah. So we talked about, what was his name? Tim, the VP nomination on the Democratic Party. Waltz?
Yeah, Walls. Yeah,
Waltz. So he was a command sergeant major, but he went to school. You were a specialist, sir. I'm sticking with it. I don't give a shit anymore.
Well, wasn't he on the reserve side?
Yeah.
No. So with him, right, the problem with him was he wore the rank because he did the job.
Right.
But he couldn't retire at that rank. I didn't retire.
Right.
Yeah, no. So going back to Purple Heart, so we just, trying to bring awareness. I'm not sure if you know, but there's actually a little over 250,000 Purple Heart recipients, living Purple Heart recipients in the States.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And not a lot of them know about us.
Right.
And so, hopefully making connections, doing a couple more interviews, podcasts will help open that door to them, especially a lot of Iraq and Afghanistan veterans that don't know about us. Yeah. And we're trying to help them. We would like them to join our organization and I'll be a part of that brotherhood because, like I can talk about my situations and everything I went through with you guys because I'm comfortable about it. But there's a lot of Purple Heart recipients out there who won't talk to someone who didn't go through the same thing.
Right.
And that's what we're here for. And so, we're hoping to get, our name back out there and let everybody know how prestigious it is about the Purple Heart. Because with that, there's like 120 organizations in the United States, VFW, American Legion, Marine Corps League, stuff like that, Purple Heart. Out of those 120, only 3 are the most prestigious and require you to have a certain medal.
Yeah.
So that's the Medal of Honor, Legion of Merit, and Purple Heart. And so, to be a part of that is something great, but that also doesn't say that we're better than you, but we want to work with you, help you out. And we're also working with other organizations. So we are the first organization to approach another and start a working partnership. I had a dream and I was like, this is how we're going to make life better for veterans. It started in Washington and it was a joint venture between the Pacific Northwest Chapter 12 Seattle and VFW Post 7511. Okay. So I was like, hey, let's make this a better community for veterans. So what did we do? We partnered up, started working, and we started, helping out at Sebastian's house and Claire's house, where they housed 15 homeless veterans each.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Right.
And so our purpose is to not only help Purple Heart recipients, but veterans. So what we do, we went and bought all the toiletries, all the stuff for the rooms. Mm-hmm. And that's how we took care of it. The VFW would come in and pay for food and whatever else, to help out these facilities. Started at the local level. Yep. Moved it up to the state, started doing more around the state. So back when I became junior vice in South Dakota, I started talking to the then senior vice and the national commander who I replaced, Carter Ferguson out of Arkansas. I was like, it'd be a great idea for us to start working with another big veteran service organization. Maybe we can get some members, but legislatively.
Right.
And so the thought is the way Congress thinks, they're like, I'm one person. I'm just Robert Olivares out of Washington State, right? I'm one person. But the way they see me is Robert Olivares, Purple Heart recipient, Robert Olivares, VFW member, Robert Olivares, American Legion member,
Right.
Robert Olivares, Marine Corps. So I got 4 or 5 votes. And so I started thinking, okay, we want legislation to pass. So if I were to walk in as a legislative person for the military or the Purple Heart, it's easy for Congress to tell me no on what I want. But if I walk in for the military or the Purple Heart with signatures from each national commander from the American Legion, VFW, Marine Corps League, so on and so on, do you think they're going to tell me no?
That's a lot of people to say no to.
That's a lot of people to say no to. And if you start saying no, well, guess who's going to be out of a job? And guess who's going to be looking for someone that's veteran friendly and wants to actually help us be happier and healthier and live a longer life?
Right.
Because that like it all comes into that old saying, we're stronger together, but divided we fall.
Yeah.
And so we started up the partnership with VFW last year.
Nice.
And then I took it a step further. And then my mentors, like I mentioned earlier, were all Vietnam veterans, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I tell people I grew up with Vietnam veterans and I learned everything I needed to learn from an organization, from all the guys in my chapter there at in Seattle and Washington.
Right.
So I reached out to the Vietnam Veterans of America. I'm like, I need to do something for you guys because you guys have done so much for our generation.
Yeah.
Like we have better benefits. We weren't looked down on. We weren't spit on. We weren't treated like crap.
And that's the biggest thing. I remember coming back on our flight. I think we landed in Maine, maybe.
Yeah, Bangor, Maine.
Yeah, and it was a bunch of Vietnam guys that like welcomed us back.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was crazy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we had a better homecoming than they did.
Yeah. And
So-
because of them, they made sure of it.
Yeah. And so listening to the stories and these guys just telling me how they were treated and how when like literally before you got to the States, you took off your uniform attire and got into civilian clothes.
Right.
You'd be, respected.
Yeah.
So I set up a meeting between us and the Vietnam Veterans of America and say, hey, we want to work with you. I heard this on the pike that you guys have a program called The Last Man Standing. I was like, we're going to scratch that program and we're going to do the Vietnam Veterans Legacy for you. And so we partnered with them. And so I told them that the legacy of the Vietnam veterans would be carried until the last Purple Heart recipient gave his last breath.
Yeah.
And so we do have Purple Heart recipients still coming in. So my promise to them is, because they're starting to hit that punch card and they're all starting to age out, and so what we want to do is keep their spirit, keep their light going to show people that we have it better because of the people before us.
Right.
And so we started doing that. I just, started working with the Marine Corps League. Gonna try to see what we can get going with the disabled American veterans and whoever else wants to come to the table. But we need to start working together and helping each other out legislatively this way so that we're all guaranteed a better life and that our benefits aren't diminished and that they have to honor the contract just as we did.
Yeah. So essentially you're trying to create a super PAC of veteran service organizations.
Exactly. And some people are always going like, the top 5 and they're basing it on these numbers, but they don't realize it's like, yeah, you're top 5, but you're top 5 that don't work together.
Yeah.
And so, like you'll always see posts on Facebook or, veteran support pages is like, American Legion, 2-point-something million, VFW not far behind it. Well, that's great. But are you guys working together?
Yeah.
And you need to understand why. If you work together, that's you're tripling your numbers and you just don't understand it. So us being a smaller organization of only 50,000 members, we're doing the workload and bringing us all together.
Yeah.
And so why is it the smaller guy doing it, everything and it's starting to make progress?
Having 50,000 members out of 250 potential.
Yeah.
Correct.
250,000 potential
Yeah.
members. That's not bad. Because you got to think like you were just saying, the numbers for VFW and American Legion, at least social media numbers, there's a couple million.
Yeah.
There's way more veterans than that.
Oh yeah. There's a lot more. And that's things like a lot of people.
So your guys' ratios are fucking, you're
because
good.
You said there's only 250 living,
Purple Heart recipients.
Yeah.
250,000.
Yep.
And you have 50,000
That's
of those that are already members.
So I'm hoping, these people on these podcasts listening, you're not a Purple Heart recipient.
So, okay.
Going,
So let's say somebody out there listening is a Purple Heart recipient and they're not a member and they don't know about your organization. How do they get involved in like kind of give an elevator pitch to them?
Yeah. So if you're a Purple Heart recipient and you're not involved with the military of Purple Heart, just please go online to purpleheart.org. Scroll right down, and at the bottom of the first page it says "Become a member." If you're having a hard time with that, go to Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We have pages on there.
Yeah. So
if you scroll all the way down right here, you'll see "Become a member" right there on About Us.
Yep.
So you do that, and then we have regular patriots as what we call members. We have associate members, and we have a link for auxiliary, who are the spouses of our members. So, we would love for you to join. If you're not a Purple Heart recipient, you can join the auxiliary, help us out, and just do everything we need to do and create a better lifestyle for all of us veterans. We have an array of programs. We do everything all the time. I'm always out there. We were actually talking about this the other day. Is all my information's on there, and we're trying to help people. The amount of phone calls I get daily from people I don't even know across the country is insane.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we need help with this. I'm like, well, how'd you hear about us? I'm like, well, you're the first national commander out of everybody that answers the phone. I'm not better than you. And like, yeah, well, the American Legion's got like 20 secretaries. The VFW's got like a whole list of people you got to call before you get to the top guy. You just answer. I'm like, well, what do you need? What can we do for you? And they come to me with legislative issues, which are good ideas that we don't know about that affect veterans. And I'm like, well, let's take this on. Let's see if we can do something to help you. Like I said, we're not only just helping Purple Heart recipients, we're helping everybody. And if you as a veteran who isn't a Purple Heart recipient sees this as a reoccurring issue, not just for you, but for everybody, we need to tackle that.
Yeah.
And so, that's all the stuff we're doing. Everything that we tackled, with the exception of one legislative thing, was for everybody.
Yeah.
And so, we did the Metals Protection Act that protects our metals, because there's people profiting like crazy off of us. And they'll be like, oh yeah, all this money goes towards combat wounded recipients or Purple Heart medal people, and we've never seen a dime. And so you're making money and you're supposed to be helping us. What's going on here? Right. So
where's it going?
Yeah. It's like, we're not getting anything, because we'd sure love some of that to help our programs to be able to do more for veterans. So, and everything, we don't have an annual due. We just have a one lifetime membership fee.
Okay.
And you become a member for life. And then, you get all the benefits that we have. You get the camaraderie, the brotherhood, sisterhood with other veterans. You go to all our events, you get recognized. Teams are becoming Purple Heart teams. The Seahawks just became a Purple Heart team, and they honored all of our Purple Heart recipients.
That's awesome.
Cool.
So that was pretty cool. You got a bunch of teams here. The Rangers here in Texas are Purple Heart. We're trying to work with someone to get both the Cowboys and the Texans as Purple Heart teams to recognize these guys down here.
So Texas just what's the banana ball team?
Savannah Banana.
No, what's the Texas team name?
Oh, the Texas Tailgaters.
Texas Tailgaters. You guys should approach them too.
Oh, we could do that.
Yeah,
we could definitely do that.
It'd be fun if anything.
Because just the crowd that they draw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they fill stadiums.
Yeah. I've seen some of the banana team came to Seattle while I was gone. I was like, damn, I really wanted to see those guys, because they put on a show.
Yeah.
They have sold out 2 NFL stadiums.
Yeah. It's insane.
For baseball.
That's insane.
So,
most baseball teams can't even fill their own stadium, let alone a football stadium.
So, becoming a Purple Heart entity, as they did, pretty much recognizes that they're not only Purple Heart friendly, but veteran friendly, and that they do honor and respect all of our veterans. Seattle Mariners are a Purple Heart team. I'm in the process of working on all the other professional teams in Washington. Whatever team I can grab a hold of, I will work at to try to get them. And especially with everything that's going on with the NFL with taking an E, this right here would be a positive for them. Because then I understand you have freedom of speech and all that other stuff. That's great. We've never denied any of your, freedoms, and we never will.
Right.
But to show that you have all this freedom, but give back to the veteran community or honor the veterans will go a long way. And us as America and a lot of people, we've gone away from that, honestly. So it's not like it used to be. You have veteran friendly states here and there, but not all of them are. And we want them to all be veteran friendly and to recognize that we are the small percent. What was it, like 5% of Americans, 2 to 5% of Americans join the military?
I think it's 1.
I think it's
1%?
1 to 2.
1 to 2. Yeah. So we want to let them know that we signed that contract and we gave that check for our life, and we're promised certain things. And now that we came back, you might have not been injured, but a piece of you was left over there.
Right.
And so, honor your contract and help take care of us as we did you in the time of need, because the military ain't for everybody.
Yeah.
But those that do it, do it for a purpose because they obviously love this country and love what they do. But then we get away from that. We do it for our brothers and our sisters.
Yeah.
After a while, and that's like the best family. That may not be blood, but that's the best family I ever have.
As soon as we get done with this, I'm going to finish loading everything up, and I got to head down to South Texas. We're doing a barbecue cook-off on a ranch we do a lot of veteran hunts on to benefit the charity.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And this past Monday, we just did a golf tournament benefiting a charity.
Yeah, we'd love to do something with you guys and get that exposure out there. And we're always here for people.
Yeah.
I bet you we can write it up and make a Warfighter a Purple Heart entity because obviously you support veterans. And having us here, we can send you something and get you a proclamation and put it on our website and let everybody know. So,
do you guys do like annual events or
we do? We have our
regional or
so we do. We have our national convention every year in July, which you guys are more than welcome to do. So this year it's going to be in Reno, Nevada.
Okay.
At the Nugget, July 13th through the 18th.
I have an idea for an event at your event.
Okay.
You guys should do a dodgeball tournament.
That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. I'd be down for that.
I don't know if anybody's gonna be good at it though, John.
That's the best part.
That's the thing. We can do a side of Vietnam versus OEF and just see who wins. Who's more flexible?
The way you can't pair it up though is the auxiliary members versus the members.
Yeah,
that would be
that's one-sided.
Yeah, that's true. So, but that'd be a good thing. They do like little events. Like in years past, they've had golf tournaments and other stuff. But that would be fun. So nationally, we have our national convention. So this year, like I said, it's in Reno, Nevada. Next year, it's in New Bern, North Carolina. In 2027, there is talks between Tampa, Florida, and Kansas City, Missouri.
Right.
So they just put the bid in, whoever comes. But I know in 2028, I'm hosting it back in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, cool.
So it'll been 10 years because I hosted my first national convention in 2018 when I was a state commander there.
Okay.
And it was amazing. So that's also a good event. That's when you get representatives from each department, which is a state, and plus whoever else to come. We all get together, and it's nice to see other veterans, and meet new people and see if it's someone that served in your unit or was in the same area you were,
right, or
in the same unit after you and stuff like that. So there's a lot of the guys that I served with now belong to the Purple Heart, and they try to come out, or if we're traveling, I'll stop by and see them if I'm nearby. So I was here last month in Houston for the state convention for the Department of Texas. And I had a few friends there in Houston. I called them up, and I haven't seen them in years. I'm like, dude, let's meet up. This is where I am.
Nice.
And we met up, and we had a really good time. It was really good seeing my friends. And so same thing here. We're actually, my nephew's graduating high school in Bernie, so we're going to drive up there later, and I'm going to surprise him. And,
that's awesome.
And be like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, you owe me some whiskey because I traveled states away just to see you.
Right. So, I came here just for you.
Call my sisters. Like, it's weird that your older brother comes to see your kid graduate, but you haven't seen your two nephews graduate yet. But yeah, so it's going to be fun. And I do make an effort to stop by and see people. We do connect with our veterans and show them that we still care. And
those conversations, they do so much.
They do.
And,
yeah.
Whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours.
And here's an example. So last year we just came from California, right? We were at their state convention, and last year, and that was in Temecula. It's a good area.
Yeah.
So last year we were in Monterey, and I stayed up there, and one of the corpsmen that got injured with me was there. And so I went and visited him. But before that, I don't know if you guys are in contact with a lot of your buddies, but I try to. That's one. My dad was retired Navy, and best piece of advice he gave me is like, stay in contact with you guys.
Yeah.
Because it's going to mean a lot to you. And I was like, okay. So I didn't think anything of it. And then I was like, as I traveled, I started, it wasn't clicking that, I was keeping that relationship alive, and we were there for each other. So last year, Doc Sanchez, George Sanchez, good best friend ever. We both wounded together. I stayed with him while I was at that convention, and we started drinking.
Yeah.
So it came down. His wife Priscilla, a really great lady, started talking to me, and she goes, "Yeah, I'm so happy we found you." And I was like, "Oh yeah." And so Doc Sanchez disappeared on us. Nobody knew where he went for like 10 years. No, we couldn't find him. The number we had was disconnected. He's just off grid. He tried to forget everything we went through. We went through some stuff.
Yeah.
And so this girl, Priscilla Sanchez, just Facebook friends was like, "Are you Holly?" I'm like, who's this?
Right.
Like, did I date you?
Yeah.
I was like,
Right.
did we go out one time and you're
what
trying
are you
to
asking
find
me
me?
for?
And so I'm like, she goes, "Are you
Child
Ollie?"
support jam.
So I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Are you Ollie? Were you friends with George Sanchez?" I was like, "What the fuck? Where's he at?" And she goes, "I'm his wife." It's like, "He's married?" and she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "We've been looking for that asshole for like 10 years. You tell him to call me now." And
Yeah.
he calls me and he's like, "What's up, Ollie?" And he goes, "We're coming up to see you." So he drove up from California
Nice.
to see me.
Awesome.
And we hung out, and then I came back to California for the state, and we started talking, and he disappeared because he wanted to forget everything.
Yeah.
So we got drunk one night, and I was like, "I'm tired. I'm gonna go to bed," and I don't drink and drive. So
Yeah.
and he got up and wanted to drive away. So she's like, come into the room. She's like, "He's trying to leave." I was like, "Wait, what?" And so I get up, I run outside in my undies. I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?" So I need some space, man. It's like, it's all coming back. I was like, "No, we're going to fucking talk it out."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we stood up. I was dead tired and I had to fly out that day.
Mhm.
But I stayed up for like 3.5 hours and we just talked about everything, which is what we do here at the Purple Heart. So there's not a single veteran, like with our suicide prevention program, we get out there and we talk to that person. We don't give you the help, the VA
Yeah.
line. Yeah, that's great and all. But why do I want to be put on hold to find somebody to talk to me and then have a date set for me to talk to them later? That's not going to help me. So what a lot of our guys do, we'll go get coffee. We'll go to breakfast. We'll go to dinner. We don't care. And we'll sit there and talk,
Yeah.
Just because a guy was in Vietnam doesn't mean he doesn't understand what you're going through. Yeah, it's a different conflict.
Yeah.
I don't want to fight in Vietnam. I tell those guys all
Yeah.
the time, I don't want to be impaled.
But they say the same thing.
But they say the same for us.
They're like,
but
"Oh, I don't want to fight your war."
it's so much easier fighting in the desert. Nothing's coming up from under the ground.
Right.
You know?
And their thing is it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
It's like I'm comfortable in a jungle. I don't want to fight in a city.
Yeah. And
You
so
know, it's just,
so we'll sit there and we'll just talk for hours, and talking with them. And then I get, that I appreciate you and thank you for this. And, we all fight our own demons. Like I still fight my own demons on a daily basis. And I'm super calm. I'm like the calmest person you'll meet. And, you can talk to certain people. It takes a lot to tick me off, like a lot. But there's certain people who know how to push my buttons just like that.
Yeah.
I'm off. But we have to be here for each other because nothing against the VA, nothing against anybody else's. And this is what I say. Nobody's going to take better care of a veteran than a veteran.
Yeah.
So our mission is to ensure that everybody's, taken care of, happy, lives a long life, and knows that they have somebody here for them. So
right.
with the military or the Purple Heart, we don't think we're better than you. You invite us to something, I guarantee you we'll have representation there. We'd love to grow our ranks with all those Purple Heart recipients out there that don't know about us. But at the same time, we'll do as much as we can and the time we have for everybody that's out there.
Mhm.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. Anything else you want to add in before we sign this off?
Yeah, hopefully we can see a bunch of people out there today or tomorrow at the monument unveiling. Feel free to go to purpleheart.org, check us out, or any of our Facebook pages, which is Military of the Purple Heart, USA.inc, or any Purple Heart page. Ask questions. We always respond, and we're here to help you. And hopefully you join our ranks. If not, we'll see you on the road and have some kind of promotion for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. No, these guys do some awesome stuff. If you're not familiar with it, go get it. If you're a Purple Heart recipient and you're not a member, what are you doing? Actually, I get a couple close friends that are Purple Heart recipients that I'm going to relentlessly give them shit if they're not members.
And I'll give you a little tidbit to help you out. If you guys are supposed to be awarded the Purple Heart and you have the documentation, because a lot of people do have paperwork. So collect all of your paperwork, get it all together. What you do is you go online and print out the DD-149 form, which is an updated records request.
Okay.
You get 3 to 4 people. Hopefully one of those people is a corpsman or a doc of some sort. Have them all fill out a detailed event of what happened when you were injured.
Yep.
Have it notarized this way, so it's legit. Fill that all out, mail it to your headquarters. It could be Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force. Fill it out, but when you send it off certified this way, so they can't say they never received it at headquarters. Right. And this way, you're covering your butt.
Right.
Yep.
And they have to process your paperwork and go through there. So that's a good way to help you, try to get your medal added to there or be awarded the medal. Once that happens, if rejected, we have other things where we can help you look at certain things, and then we can direct you towards a congressman or senator that will fight for this and help you get yours. Because we just did one for a gentleman that received it 50 years later from Vietnam.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the insane thing about that, I sent my department commander, who is Jennifer Horn out of Washington State, to award it to him. She was sending me pictures, and I was like, damn, this guy looks really familiar. I was like, and she goes, what do you mean? It's like, I've seen this guy. I know this guy. I was like, well, yeah, I grew up in your town. I was like, no, like I've seen this guy a lot. Well, it turns out he was the father of one of the girls I went through elementary, middle, and high school with.
Oh,
and
wow.
I saw him at every Veterans Day ceremony or assembly we had.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, I know the guy. And I felt so bad that I couldn't be there to be a part of that because I graduated high school with his daughter. And so
that's cool. Awesome, man. Well, thank you guys for coming, being on the show, taking time out of your busy days, because you guys are everywhere, to help spread information about
thanks for having us.
the Purple Heart. We really appreciate what you guys do. Yeah.
Oh, and one last thing. So if you want to donate to our organization, you go to mophfund.org. And we're starting to kick off here this Memorial Day. It's called the Military Badge of Merit. And it's a support program where you can do a one-time donation to support programs, or you can do a monthly donation to help keep the programs running and take care of veterans.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, Justin will put a link.
Yeah.
We'll get on that on the page.
And then, so go check them out, Military Road of Purple Heart. And then for, like usual, all your tobacco needs, all your cigar needs, warfightertobacco.com. And stay tuned to next week.
Yeah. We'll see you guys.
Take it easy.
Thanks.